And thank you all for coming to spend your Saturday, which you could be spending so many other ways, no doubt, to come and share with all of us together the subject of reading and living the Chaitanya Charitamrita. I have a subtitle, Re-entering the world of Caitanya Mahāprabhu's life and teachings. The re is in parentheses because for some of us it might be kind of first time, for others it might be the 100th time, or anywhere in between. So we'll be traveling together in this exploration of Chaitanya Charitamrita, and I'm grateful for this opportunity, and I'm also a little bit anxious because I've never quite done this way of discussing the Chaitanya Charitamrita. I've given courses on the Chaitanya Charitamrita which have gone over 1 week or 2 weeks. And when it's like that, then, I have a system for developing. But here, it's not that, it's something else. And it's also different context, different, we have a mixture, we might say, of our personal backgrounds, our backgrounds in the practice of bhakti yoga, the extent to which we're familiar with Chaitanya Charitamrita, how much of our experience of Krishna consciousness in relation to Chaitanya's message and teachings and pastimes, how this all blends together in so many ways. It's all in the mix. I want to suggest that those of you who are have made yourselves so comfortable on that far side that you might want to move more toward the center, because I think from that corner it's going to be hard to see the text, which I thought we could begin with singing. What do you think? Shall we do that?
Yes.
Let's do it. This song is, I think, a nice way to begin our discussion because it is an appeal by Narottam Das Thakur for Chaitanya Mahāprabhu's daya, for his mercy. And without Chaitanya Mahāprabhu's mercy, what can we understand about anything? And in particular, what can we understand, what can we appreciate about Chaitanya Charitamrita? Perhaps we can start with the verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, which I put in our blurb, which you have also on your printout. A verse which is found in Adi Lila chapter 8, verse number 15. Shri Krishna Chaitanya daya karaha vichar korite chitte ave chamatkar. Actually, I think that should be korile chitte. Vichar korile chitte ave chamatkar. If you are indeed interested in logic and argument, kindly apply it to the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu. If you do so, you will find it to be strikingly wonderful. So Srila Prabhupada translates the word vichara as logic and argument, which is nice, and it's in the context of what has come prior to this. It can also simply mean to reflection, to think about, to consider something carefully. That's vichara. And he translates the word chamatkar as strikingly wonderful. I find this word chamatkar being a bit, what is the word? Onomatopoeic. It's like chamatkar. Strikingly wonderful. So this is an invitation by the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Kṛṣṇadāsa Kaviraj Goswami, to apply ourselves to appreciating Chaitanya Mahāprabhu. And he is, in effect, also offering a promise that by reading his description, his account of Chaitanya Mahāprabhu, there will be this result. He's going to, in effect, help us to do this Sri Krishna Chaitanya Daya Vichara. He's going to help us think about, reflect on, apply our logic and argument, if you like, to this specific point, this specific feature, we can say, of Chaitanya Mahāprabhu, that he is daya, he gives daya, he gives mercy. And in the song that we sang, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Koro More, here Narottam is requesting, of course, for Chaitanya Mahāprabhu to give him mercy, and then he's requesting the associates of Lord Chaitanya to also bestow their mercy. Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Acharya, Swarup Damodar, Sanatana Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, Bhatta Juga, which refers to Gopal Bhatta and Raghunath Bhatta, they were both Bhattas, and Shri Jiva Goswami, and Lokanath. Lokanath, I believe, was his Narottam's guru. And also he addresses Srinivas Acharya and he mentions Ramachandra, who was also a friend of Narottam. So he's describing, at the same time he's requesting their mercy, daya, he's also just, invoking them. And I think this is what we want to do also. One of the, I would say, major themes of the Chaitanya Charitamrita is that it's all about association of devotees. It's not Chaitanya alone, it's Chaitanya together with, especially, of course, the Panchatattva, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita, Gadadhar, Srivas, Adi, Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. And so I like to emphasize, we kind of maybe don't think of this all the time, but it's Srivas Adi, beginning with Srivas, Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. So it's a prayer to all the devotees, beginning with Lord Chaitanya, his immediate associates, and all the devotees. So we want all the mercy we can get. And I don't know if you read our blurb, but it gives you a bit of an idea of what we want to do, which is to approach specifically the text, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, because, well, this is what we have received from Srila Prabhupada. We have been so fortunate to receive his translation and purports of the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita, which he translated sort of betwixt and between. He was, of course, working on the Bhagavatam, and he felt the need to kind of set that aside. I don't know if he actually worked on both at the same time, but it seems like he did what we all like to call a marathon. Prabhupada was kind of always on a marathon, at least one marathon at a time, if not more. And so we can be especially grateful that we have this translation. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur tells how difficult it was for him in Bengal at his time to acquire a copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Of course, printing in India was kind of just getting started. This would have been, well, he wrote his first important essay on Krishna Bhakti on the Srimad Bhagavatam in the year 1869. And at that time he was finding it difficult, but finally he got a copy of it, and he was getting, it was a life changer for him. We have the Chaitanya Charitamrita in, depending on the edition, so many volumes with the commentaries. It's, of course, Srila Prabhupada's commentary, much of which is very much based on the commentary of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So much of it is he's simply translating from the Bengali. Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur's his Bengali commentary. One devotee in Czech Republic went through the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita of both and made a detailed comparison and made notes of what Prabhupada includes from Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur and what he adds additional for each and every verse. And that information is available one who might be interested. So we're focusing on Chaitanya Charitamrita. Why? We want to see how it may help us progress in our individual and collective spiritual, devotional, bhakti lives. We may want to remember, again, thinking of how important Chaitanya Charitamrita was for Srila Prabhupada, that he would say, he wrote in his diary as he was traveling on the Jaladukta to America for the first time, his consolation was Chaitanya Charitamrita. It was a difficult trip, as perhaps all of you know, and I think he used the word solace. My solace is the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So we may also gain solace from Chaitanya Charitamrita, especially in this ever so disturbed time, which seems to become ever more disturbed. We may find solace in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and we may find inspiration, we may find in particular inspiration for, in addition to our own individual spiritual lives, however we can understand that as being isolated, but perhaps most especially how we can participate in what the much lamented, now departed Kadamba Swami Maharaj liked to say, said that the movement of Chaitanya Mahāprabhu is going on. It's going on all over the universe, and it's going on whether or not we see it and whether or not we participate in it. It's going on. But perhaps we want to participate in it. And you could think of the Chaitanya Charitamrita as a kind of manual, an extended manual for that purpose. How to take part in Mahaprabhu's mission, which we understand is a mission. The mission as articulated by Vrindavan Das Thakur, you may know, Prithivite Che Jata Nagarani Gram Sarvatra Prachar Hoive Mor Nam. It's a kind of prediction which no one took seriously until Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur and then Srila Prabhupada, that Prithivite, on the earth, Ache, there will be, Jota, as many towns and villages as there are. Sarvatra Prachar. Sarvatra means everywhere. Prachar, Hoibe, is the future tense. There will be. What will there be? There will be the preaching of my name. What else do I say? The aim is to facilitate having a fresh look at our tradition's most important, specifically Gaudiya Vaishnava scriptural edifice, which I think we might want to say is a monumental edifice. I just went to, I took a stroll to Washington Square Park yesterday, afternoon. I've been there before, but somehow I didn't, I didn't remember that there's this sort of monumental arch which I guess is a kind of a copy, miniature copy of the French in Paris. So the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we can think of as a monumental literary and, we may want to say, scriptural edifice specifically for Gaudiya Vaiṣṇavas, also known as Caitanya Vaiṣṇavas. And here, I want to suggest a way of appreciating how Chaitanya Charitamrita relates with two other texts which for us are very important. I've always intended to make this graphic so I could show it, but we can also use our imaginations. And this will be very simple. Imagine, if you will, 3 concentric circles. We have a smaller circle in the middle, and a wider circle, and a third circle around that. So, looking at the widest circle, we can say this represents all those who, one way or another, revere the Bhagavad Gita. If we wanted to speak mathematically in terms of what they call set theory, this wider circle would be the set of all those. We learned this in school, didn't we? We all had this in junior high school or high school. The set of persons for whom the Bhagavad Gita is somehow important. It's important in their lives. We may want to say they regard it as scripture. Well, you may see what I'm going to say next. The next circle in refers to or represents all those for whom the Srimad Bhagavatam is important, or another a term which is you don't find it in India, but it's a Western religious term, canonical. The Srimad Bhagavatam is canonical for these people. It is scriptural authority in some way. And this includes, really, I think one can safely say, all Vaishnava traditions, including the Chaitanya, the Gaudiya Vaishnava or Chaitanya Vaishnava, but also the Sri Vaishnavas, the Nimbarkis, the Madhvas, and what do I want to say? Vaiṣṇavas, yeah, yes, the Vaiṣṇavas. So this is a narrower circle, but it's still very wide. And we can say Srimad Bhagavatam may also be very important for others beyond the, strictly speaking, Vaishnava Sampradaya traditions. Whether consciously or unconsciously, that's another topic. And then we have this circle in the center. And maybe I'm being a little bit Gaudiya Vaishnava-centric here, but what to do? So this is representing all of those for whom the Chaitanya Charitamrita in particular, and of course there are many, many other texts that would be highly regarded, but central to them for Chaitanya Vaishnavas is certainly the Chaitanya Charitamrita. There's one scholar who is connected with our research center in Oxford. I may be mentioning him more than once. His name is Tony Stewart, and he has been studying the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition since some decades. And you will probably ask, so is he a devotee? Well, he's a very nice scholar and a very nice person. I don't think he considers himself a follower of Lord Chaitanya, but he is somehow deeply, he has been deeply engaged in studying from his doctoral research at the University of Chicago. And I think it was 2011, finally his book came out, which was kind of the culmination of all of his research on the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And the title of the book is The Final Word. And it has a subtitle, I don't remember, but it's what he's saying there is he doesn't want to be arrogant to say my book is the final word. What he wants to say is that the Chaitanya Charitamrita was and still is in important ways the final word about Caitanya Mahāprabhu for the followers of Caitanya Mahāprabhu. And essentially what he's doing in that book is showing in minute detail how he establishes his writing as the final word. So I think we can agree in many ways it's the final word. And historically, whatever has been written after that about Lord Chaitanya has been based on Chaitanya Charitamrita and also earlier writings. There are, if I remember right, there's approximately 6 other works which are still extant, which are, Chaitanya giving or focused on Chaitanya Lila. There were others which were written but which are no longer extant. I would say most regrettably the Karacha, the notebooks, as it was called, or notebook of Swarup Damodar. Although some works have been published which claim to be the Karacha, the scholars say, no, sorry, that can't be it. For various reasons which they will elaborate. But that's the sad news. The happy news is that Kṛṣṇadāsa Kaviraj was benefiting from Swarup Damodar's notes from his writings as given to him by Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. My understanding is especially from Raghunath Das, because Raghunath had been there in Puri so much of the time. Yeah. So I want to say, let's make this open-ended in the sense, please feel free to raise your hand, interrupt, ask a question, make a comment. That way it can be not so monotonous with me speaking all the time. Let me ask the embarrassing question, who has read the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita? Oh, good, very good. Some of you parts of Chaitanya Charitamrita? Yes, good, okay. A few verses here and there. I've heard a few verses. Well, those of you who have read the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita, we give you a gold star in the beginning. And all the rest, we give you a gold star for coming to take inspiration to, in course of time, read the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita. And maybe I should say a word about techniques of reading. Because, well, first let me tell a little personal story. When I first joined, as we say, as when I joined the devotees, it was in Germany in a few decades ago. Soon after I joined, we received, I don't remember if we got more than one copy, but we got at least one copy of a paperback book from America. It was in English, and it was called, what was it called? Chaitanya in 5 Features. You remember that book? Some of you have seen it. It was a translation. It's Adi Lila chapter 7. Does it include 8? I don't remember it. Maybe it's just 7. Maybe it's 7 and 8. So we received this book, and it's Sri Chaitanya in 5 Features, I think it's called. And we all started reading it, and then we couldn't stop reading it because it was so exciting. It was Kṛṣṇadāsa Kaviraj telling us about the Panchatattva and how they were plundering the storehouse of love of God. And when we were reading this, and they were distributing the contents to everyone, and when we would read this, we would practically get goosebumps and say, "Where's my book bag? Let's go." we would want to run out on the street and distribute the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. So, and Prabhupada had apparently told the devotees, I believe he was in Los Angeles, and he had just translated that chapter, and he told the devotees, print this as a separate book, because he understood this will be very potent for inspiring everyone. So, but I wanted to say how to read Chaitanya Charitamrita. Well, in a sense, it's because it's Amrita. Amrita, you can, whether you taste this side of the cup or that side of the cup, or the other side or another side, it's all Amrita, right? It's all nectar. So you can open any book, and devotees used to distribute any book also from Chaitanya Charitamrita, which I always thought is a bit amusing. Imagine somebody on the street getting a copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya Lila chapters, whatever, 8, 9, 10. What is going on here? So yes, one can just jump in anywhere and read, and it can be very sweet. Or one can begin at the beginning and work one's way through. And I say work because especially the first 6 chapters, you may feel they're kind of a lot of work. And why are they a lot of work? They're a lot of work because it's dense theology. It's giving theology, and we may want to say ontology. Who is who, and how is it that they are who they are? It's also, of course, giving why Chaitanya appears, why Mahaprabhu appears. So it's telling also a story of his reflection about his intention to appear. All of that is there, and all of that is an expansion, an explanation, a commentary, in effect, on the first 14 verses of Chaitanya Charitamrita. These are very, very compact statements about devotional tattva. Vande Guru Nisha Bhaktan Nishan Nishavatarakan Tat Prakasham Shatat Chakti Krishna Chaitanya Samgyakam, the first verse. whoa, what is this? Addressing the gurus, plural, and then the associates of the Lord, Chaitanya Mahāprabhu. And it's quite dense, and there are many quite long purports. And what I think happens with many of us is we kind of feel bogged down at some point in the purports, and then we kind of drift off, and it gets left wherever we were. Or we jump, we go, okay, gotcha, I'll be back. And we jump to maybe chapter 13, which begins the story. It's Lord Chaitanya appearing as Nimai and becoming known as Nimai Pandit eventually, and eventually becoming then known as Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu or Mahaprabhu, and there are many, many verses in Chaitanya Charitamrita referring to Chaitanya Mahāprabhu, as we like to say, as Prabhu. Sometimes it'll happen, I'm addressed by devotees because it's a custom in our tradition. Swamis get addressed as Maharaj, great king, as if a Swami wants to be a king. But somehow that's became the tradition. And now and then, a devotee will address me, Prabhu, and then they'll say, oh, I'm so sorry. No, not Prabhu, Maharaj. They feel very embarrassed. But Chaitanya Mahāprabhu is referred all the time as Prabhu, so it's respectful. That was a little footnote. So, okay, different ways of reading Chaitanya Charitamrita. I think this will be something that unfolds also as we discuss. A general suggestion I like to make for devotees is to just read the verses of an entire chapter. Go through the verses, straight through. That way you're getting a cohesive, you're getting what Kṛṣṇadāsa has written. And especially when there's a lot of narrative, there's story. This happened, then this happened, then this happened. And this can be very, very good. And there are large sections of Chaitanya Charitamrita where there are no purports because there's no need. It's just very clear what's happening. But you can just read the verses, and then you can go back and you can read purports, and you can look at the Bengali, you can look at the Sanskrit, you can focus more. That's one way of doing it. And if you're not aware, maybe you're all aware, but if you have a computer and you have an internet connection, you can go on database.io, and then you go to Chaitanya Charitamrita. You can go to one chapter and you can get just the verses in translation. So it's very easy to just read straight through a chapter like that. And sometimes I'm surprised when I do that. It's like, oh, is that there? Yeah. So that's one general suggestion I would make for reading. Right. Let's see what more I wanted to say in terms of introduction. Okay, I think that's kind of it for my initial remarks. Let's see if anyone wants to say something before I proceed. Yes?
Thank you, Raj, for giving this presentation and
We just
offering
started.
your time. In terms of tips for reading Chaitanya Charitamrita,
Yeah.
Kṛṣṇadāsa Swami also gives introductory verses at the very beginning. He gives introductory verses at the beginning of the chapter where he basically summarizes what he's going to be describing.
Yeah.
And so it's a good idea to also pay attention to those.
Yes.
You get a sense of why he's going to tell the stories and what he's taking from the story to be the essence.
Yes.
And then he does it at the end as well, like 2 verses, he summarizes
Yes.
what he's described, and if you look at those, it's
Yes. Thank you.
contextualization.
Yes. Summaries. His first verse of each chapter is always a verse in Sanskrit, which is kind of an invocation. Kṛṣṇadāsa Kaviraj was a very accomplished Sanskritist. He wrote the Chaitanya Charitamrita after he wrote the Govinda Lilamrita, which is in Sanskrit, which has some really stunning verses, including verses which describe Krishna's dancing. And anyway, that's another topic. And he does it in an onomatopoeic way, so you can almost hear Krishna dancing. So he was an accomplished Sanskritist. He wrote the first verse of each chapter. And one of these verses that I like, I quoted the very first verse, chapter 14, Adi Lila, Katanchana smite yasmin duskaram sukaram bhave vismite viparitam syat Sri Chaitanya namamitam. It's kind of my concluding verse also. If I were more organized, I would show it you here, but chapter 14, verse 1, he's saying in this verse that by remembering Lord Chaitanya, whatever may be difficult to accomplish becomes easy. And the opposite is also true. Whatever is normally easy, if one forgets, if one does not remember Caitanya Mahāprabhu, becomes difficult. Katanchana smite yasmin duskaram. Duskaram, what is difficult, sukaram becomes easy. Speaking of summaries, he also summarizes chapter 1 of Antya Lila, and no, I'm mixing up. Chapter 1 of Madhya Lila, chapter 2 of Madhya Lila. Yes, chapter 2, he summarizes Antya Lila, chapter 1, Madhya Lila. And he gives a summary at the very end of chapter 20 of Antya Lila. He gives a summary of Antya Lila. And Tony Stewart points out this is a technique to make sure that nobody adds anything or subtracts anything from the book. So there's a reason to that. So yes, that's called an anukramanika. Anukramanika is, and you find that in the Mahabharata, the first Adi Parvan. There's an extensive anukramanika. I think there's even 2 to summarize what's coming. And that can be a very nice meditation. You can just sort of zip through so many pastimes very quickly as like a mental slideshow. And that can be a nice way of doing smarana. Can be good. Yeah. Yes.
If that's a technique for making sure nothing is added or subtracted, why would somebody then trying to add or subtract, not just go to that section and add or subtract from the summary.
Yes. Well, that would be more difficult because then you'd have to change the verse number. I don't know. I haven't thought in detail about that. No, I think though that one of the reasons that the Chaitanya Charitamrita has sustained its authority, well, it's working both ways. Because of its authority, it has remained relatively unchanged. I say relatively because there can be very minor changes, scribal mistakes in copy, for example. That's another topic. But it's popular, and therefore it's known. This is the text, so nobody can sneak something in or take something out, and sort of inverting that. Nobody wants to, because they understand this is Kṛṣṇadāsa Kaviraj. We want what he said. Right, I thought we should do a bit of reading. And if someone could hand me Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, the volume that includes chapter 5. Probably, it may be the first line. Before we do this, we should probably work out our schedule. Certainly we're going to want to have a break at some point. And I understand we're going to stop for our midday break earlier, 11:45, you said. Okay. Now it's 10:15, 5. Should we stop in 15 minutes for a short break? Is that good?
Yes.
All right. And we're having an earlier lunch because we don't want to be disturbed by Surya while Surya is wrestling with Rahu. Something like that. Right. Okay, 73. So, an interesting feature of Kṛṣṇadāsa Kaviraj Goswami's writing is that in Chaitanya Charitamrita, he, more than once, he is autobiographical. He tells about himself. He tells the how I became a Hare Krishna story. And he tells how it happened that he was requested to write the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So let's just listen to his explanation of how it came that he went to Vrindavan. You may know this story, but it's nice to hear again. I won't read all the Bengali, but here and there, something. Shri Chaitanya Prabhute Tara Sudrita Vishwas Nityananda Prati Tara Vishwasa Abhas My brother had firm faith in Lord Chaitanya, but only a dim glimmer of faith in Lord Nityananda. Ihajani Ramadase dukkha hoibamone tabe to bratare ami korinu bhartsone. Knowing this, Sri Ramdas felt unhappy in his mind. I then rebuked my brother. Bhartsana means rebuke, chastisement. And here's what he said. Jui bai akkotanu shoman prakasha nitananda namana tomar hobe sarvanasha. Kṛṣṇadāsa Kaviraja's Bengali is not always completely following what would be called scansion. He has two types of Bengali verse. This, what we're reading now, is called Payar, 2 lines and with a certain rhythm. And the other type, which he sometimes goes to, which is, in a sense, you feel like, oh, this is really for singing. It's called Tripadi, and that's usually in sort of 4 lines with 2 longer and 2 shorter lines. But he's not always so exactly. There are poets, Bengali, who they really keep the right number of syllables, and some of them will also be very good with rhyming. The end, sometimes there's internal rhyming. Some quite amazing poetry is there. But Kṛṣṇadāsa Kaviraj doesn't seem very concerned about that. He has a story to tell, and he's going to tell it. He's going to get it across. These 2 brothers, I told him, are like one body. They are identical manifestations. If you do not believe in Lord Nityananda, you will fall down. So you can imagine 2 brothers, they're arguing with each other. Sometimes brothers do that. If you have faith in one but disrespect the other, your logic is like the logic of accepting half a hen. Ardha kukuti nyaya. There are books that give lists of nyayas. Nyaya not so strictly in the sense of logic, but sort of quasi-logic, I would say. Analogies really are what they are. So Ardha Kukuti Nyaya. So you can impress your friends by referring to Ardha Kukuti Nyaya sometime in one of your conversations. So you're accepting one, you're not accepting the other. It's like Ardha Kukuti Nyaya. What's going to happen to you? It would be better to be an atheist by slighting both brothers than a hypocrite by believing in one and slighting the other. Thus, Sri Ramdas broke his flute in anger and went away, and at that time my brother fell down. At that time my brother fell down. You kind of think, oh, did he collapse on the floor? Or, no, what actually happened? So then, and this, Kṛṣṇadāsa does this on occasion. He says, now I've told you that such and such. Now I'm going to tell you such and such. So he wants to get us involved, and he wants to keep us oriented. This is what we're talking about. pay attention. No? So he says, I've thus described the power of the servants of Lord Nityananda, because Ramdas was a servant of Nityananda. And he's saying that because he was angry and he broke his flute, that caused his brother, Kṛṣṇadāsa's brother, to fall down. Now I shall describe another characteristic of his mercy. And now it begins. This is Nityananda Prabhu's mercy on Kṛṣṇadāsa. Bhaike partsinu mui vaya e guno she ratre prabhu more dila doroshono. That night, Lord Nityananda appeared to me in a dream because of my good quality in chastising my brother. In the village of Jamatpur, which is near Naihati, Lord Nityananda appeared to me in a dream. And this is one of these, a very short purport, in fact, so short we can read it. There is now a railway line to Jamatpur. If one wants to go there, he can take a train on the Katwa railway line and go directly to the station known as Salara. Shalara. From that station, one can go directly to Jamatpur. Now, whether that's still true, it may not be true because, things change. Railroad lines change and roads change and so on. But this is what Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur would have written, and it would have been true at that time. The BBT considered when they were doing the new edition, should we maybe go back and research all of it? Because there are many, descriptions of how you get to this or that village. Should we be, going back and updating all of this? And they said no. They're just going to leave it. Yes.
When I read something like this, and you properly, he locates things in current times. It brought me to the understanding of this is here. This was like, you can take a train to this place.
Yeah, there's
because
a real
for
place.
me, and reading this in Argentina, like it was kind of like, is this just like,
Right.
a heavenly
Somewhere
scene
floating
and
out there.
so far away. But every time I'll hear you can take a train, it kind of like made it more, oh, it's right there. I can take a train. I can see it.
Exactly.
Yeah, you were mentioning reading the Chaitanya Charitamrita online. And so a nice thing that you can do when you're reading Chaitanya Charitamrita online today is go to Google Maps.
Right.
And you can see the location.
Yeah.
And it's actually quite wonderful, like in the same way that you were describing.
Yeah.
There was no internet.
What?
But there was no internet.
There was no
internet.
internet.
Reading. I can do that now.
Yeah. I have one godbrother, haven't seen him in decades, who he told me once he was reading all these descriptions in Chaitanya Charitamrita about, especially in chapters 10, 11, 12, the branches of the Chaitanya tree, and he got so excited. He said, "These are families descended from Lord Chaitanya. I want to meet them." And with these kind of directions also, go here, go there. So he made it a point. He learned Bengali. And he became fluent, really fluent in Bengali. And he spent a lot of time traveling around these villages, staying, living in the villages, getting to know people. He had one frustration though, he said, because he was working for the, I always forget what it's called, Srila Prabhupada had established this trust for renovating temples in Bengal, and he was working with that So he had to spend a lot of time at these places sometimes. And he said, it's so difficult to get anything done, because whenever I ask anybody anything, they always lie. Whatever they say, I can be sure that it's not true. And I thought about that, and I thought there's a reason for that. In that kind of village culture, even though he was speaking fluent Bengali and so on, he was an outsider. And it was a way of defending themselves from, the colonial presence, which for them was still going on, basically. How did we get there? Okay, so, yes, Jamatpur. If you want to know where Jamatpur is, it's near Naihati. I fell at his feet, so Nityananda Prabhu has appeared in his dream. I fell at his feet offering my obeisances, and he then placed his own lotus feet upon my head. Utta, utto, bali, more, bole, barabar, uttitara, rupadeki, hoinu chamotkar. There's that word, chamotkar. Arise, get up. He told me again and again. Upon rising, I was greatly astonished to see his beauty. Now at this point, you may wonder, does that mean he woke up and he actually physically got up? And I think what we'll see is no, he got up in his mind. And then he goes on to describe in great detail Nityananda Prabhu's beautiful form. His face was more beautiful than millions upon millions of moons. And his teeth were like, what do you suppose? Not pearls. Pomegranate seeds. Why pomegranate seeds? He explains, because of his chewing betel. And it gives more description. He says his body moved to and fro, right and left, for he was absorbed in ecstasy. He chanted Krishna, Krishna in a deep voice. He seemed like a maddened lion, martosino. And all around the four sides of his feet were bringa, bumblebees. And more description, he was not alone, and the cowherd boys were there. They were playing their horns and flutes and dancing and singing. So he sees all of this, and he says now, Kṛṣṇadāsa says, Anande vihvala ami, kichu nahi jani, tobe hashi, prabhu more kohilen bani. I was overwhelmed with transcendental ecstasy, not knowing anything else. Then Lord Nityananda smiled and spoke to me as follows. Are Kṛṣṇadāsa, na koroho bahe, Vrindavane jaha taha sarvalabhohai. Oh, my dear Kṛṣṇadāsa, do not be afraid. Go to Vrindavan, for there you will attain all things. I find it interesting, he had this little squabble with his brother. But that was enough to prompt Nityananda Prabhu to say, it's time for you to get out of here. Welcome, come.
Hi.
Come join the party.
In front. Can we?
Yeah, it's okay.
cross
Yes,
over?
there are front seats. You have a front row seat. We saved
Thank
them
you.
for you. We were coming.
Oh, awesome.
just reading from Adi Lila Chaitanya Charitamrita, Kṛṣṇadāsa's explanation of how it is that he went to Vrindavan. So he's just been told by Nityananda Prabhu in a dream, go to Vrindavan, for there you will attain all things. Taha Sharvalabha Hoy. Everything you want. After saying this, he directed me toward Vrindavan by waving his hand. Where's Vrindavan? It's that way. Thus, then he disappeared with his associates. And then he says, I fainted and fell to the ground. My dream broke, and when I regained consciousness, I saw that morning had come. So he's dreaming all the time, but we still don't know. Could it be that he actually had gotten up and was standing and was still dreaming? Because he says, I fainted and fell to the ground, and then my dream broke. So it's kind of interesting, this what is real, what is imaginary, what kind of reality are we talking about? But it's also interesting that Kṛṣṇadāsa shares this with his readers. He wants us to understand something about his own life story. He goes on, I thought about what I had seen and heard and concluded that the Lord had ordered me to proceed to Vrindavan at once. That very second, I started for Vrindavan. He didn't even first, take breakfast. Right? And by his mercy, I reached there in great happiness. She Kane, or Kshane in Sanskrit, Vrindavane Korinu Gamon, Prabhu Kripate Shuke Ayinu Vrindavan. And then, Jaya Jaya Nityananda Nityananda Ram, Jara Kripate Ayinu Vrindavan. All glory to Lord Nityananda Balaram, by whose mercy I have attained shelter in the transcendental abode of Vrindavan. Now, I think it's interesting, at least, if not something important. I think it's important too, that Kṛṣṇadāsa Kaviraj would have left home and gone to Vrindavan while he was quite young. We don't know exactly when, but I would imagine he could have been in his early 20s. And so, having gone to Vrindavan, he seems to have never left Vrindavan for the rest of his life. And of course, because he's in Vrindavan, he's also having the association for the first several years of his life, of his time there, with the Goswamis, Rupa, Sanatan, Bhatta Juga, Jiva Goswami, and Raghunath. And in their association, he is hearing about Caitanya Mahāprabhu. And then, having heard from them, he is being asked to write the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And in the 8th chapter, he gives more details about how that comes about. But before we go there, we already passed our time break. Hold on. Let's see if it's in this. Okay, one thing that he's doing also to emphasize the importance of what he's writing is framing. He's framing his writing in the blessings of Vrindavan, the Goswamis, the other devotees, and the deities. And this is one thing he does in the very beginning in the Adi Lila, is he glorifies Madan Mohan, Govinda, and Gopinath, yes. And he sees them as having given his blessings. And he then does something interesting. This is now Adi Lila chapter 5, verse 224. It's a verse which he quotes from Rupa Goswami. Smeram bangi trayat parichitam sachi vistirna drishtim vamshi nyastadara kishalayam ujvalam chandrakena govinda kyam haritanamita keshitirto pakante ma prekshishta stavayalisake bandhu sange stiranga. My dear friend, if you are indeed attached to your worldly friends, do not look at the smiling face of Lord Govinda as he stands on the bank of the Yamuna at Keshigat. Casting sidelong glances, he places his flute to his lips, which seem like newly blossomed twigs. His transcendental body, bending in 3 places, appears very bright in the moonlight. Incidentally, just I think it's interesting, Rupa Goswami is, of course, being facetious. He's being facetious by saying, if you're attached to your family, don't go there. Why? Because then you're going to lose your attachment to your family. So it's dangerous to go see Govinda. But then in the rest of the verse, what is he doing? He's describing the beauty of Govinda, so that you will be you won't be able to resist to go and see Govinda. Right? So that's, I think, a nice irony. But the point I want to make is, this is a Sanskrit verse, and we encounter many Sanskrit verses, several hundred Sanskrit verses. And the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita is altogether something over 11,500 verses. And of those, trying to remember, it's either 500 or 800 some Sanskrit verses. The Sanskrit verses are, many of them from the Bhagavatam, many of them are from the Goswamis. And then what Kṛṣṇadāsa invariably does after he gives a Sanskrit verse, the next verse or several verses explain the Sanskrit verse in Bengali. Why is he doing that? Because he's writing a book in Bengali for the Bengalis of Bengal. He's living in Vrindavan. He's with the Goswamis, who are writing everything in Sanskrit. Most of the Bengali devotees will not be able to read what they write. But they are concerned. They want the devotees of Bengal to understand their way of understanding who is Caitanya Mahāprabhu and what it is that he was doing. Yes?
Question. But why wouldn't he just like plainly
translated in Bengali, he
Right.
kind of quotes, like he wants to establish that's what they actually wrote in Sanskrit.
Yes, good question. I think it's two things. One is he wants them to see this is what was actually written. And the other reason is because Sanskrit has an aura of authority. It's enjoyed that position, it has authority. And so just including it adds to his authority. At one point, I don't remember where it is, Kṛṣṇadāsa Kaviraj says, again, he's like really addressing his readers. He says, I know most of you don't understand Sanskrit, but that's okay. And sometimes he'll say, or at least once he'll say, there will be those who cannot understand what I'm writing at all. And that makes me happy. Because he's writing about, exalted rasa emotions of Chaitanya Mahāprabhu. So, yes.
I don't know if this is off topic, but I've never thought about this. Why did the Swamis write in Sanskrit if they were from Bengal? Like, was it because they were in Vrindavan and that's like what people did there, or was there another reason?
No, you're not off topic. It's okay. What is your name?
Sundari Kopi.
So, because Sanskrit was the lingua franca of the learned world of what we now call India, they wanted to establish the teachings of Lord Chaitanya and the culture of Gaudiya Vaishnavism for the wider learned audience. You all know the expression lingua franca. Yeah. The lingua franca in Europe in the 19th century was not English, it was French. But the lingua franca in India, and before that, of course, it was Latin. And before that, I guess it was Greek. But anyway, in India, it's been for quite a long time. It's in Sanskrit. Yeah. Yes. Your name is?
Prasādam.
Prasādam.
I've often wondered, is Krishna speaking Rajbhas most of the time, or is he speaking Sanskrit most of the time when he's in his Vrindavan Lila?
Well, it's hard for me to imagine Krishna speaking Sanskrit with the cowherd voice or the gopis. Yeah. Yeah. When he speaks with the demigods, he probably speaks Sanskrit.
So the ultimate language is more Rajbhasa than Sanskrit.
Yes, but tell that to the pundits. They may not agree. Okay, I think we should take a very short break now. We can stretch, we can take care. Let's be back by 5 to 11, shall we? Okay.